But my name is Clayton from Packers Total Access. We just wanted to jump on here real quick and kind of give you guys a midday update on camp and practice. We had a couple of things happen today that I thought was very interesting. And first of all, we got joining us here Pack Daddy himself from Packernet Podcast, and we've also got Sam Holman from the Wisconsin Sports Heroics Podcast. So thank you guys for hanging out with me here for a second. We're going to keep it short and sweet, guys. But yeah, let's do this. Let's kind of touch on some of the things, just a couple of things that were talked about in practice today. I know Ryan, you shared this with our group earlier that Christian Watson and Mason Crosby were working with the rehab group for the first time today, and it says hopefully that's a good sign. That tweet came in from Andy Herman. I'll just start with you because you shared that tweet, man. What do you think? Are we getting closer to seeing Mason Crosby maybe kick a few field goals here in the preseason? Do you think it's still a little ways off? And obviously Christian Watson, do you think it'll be week one?
Yeah, so I was just recording the podcast for tomorrow, doing my own updates and everything. I was just talking about that before we jumped on here, but obviously I don't know how far away they are, but with my thought process being that they're already kind of close, Christian Watson, for example, it wasn't a major thing and he's already kind of getting close. The fact that they're taking that next step, I don't want to put a timeline on it, but it's obviously a very good sign that within the next couple of weeks, probably my thought would be some point in the preseason, we would see him, whether that be, this week or maybe the next week. Maybe they'll let him sit out this week and come back next week or whatever. But I would assume sometime in the preseason we'll end up seeing Christian Watson. And as far as Mason Crosby, kind of similar. Fortunately for him, I don't think he has much competition right now. I think Burkick has been pretty rough. So I think he just needs to be able to get back and maybe just drain like 2 or 3, and I think he'll be good to go. So as long as he can do that, I think he's still got a job.
Gotcha. Sam, dude, I don't know if you got a haircut or what, bro, but you're looking clean over there,
right?
man. Looks like you got it trimmed up a bit. I like it.
Yeah, I did actually get a haircut yesterday, so thanks.
Awesome. I'll tell you, there's one person on this earth, and we're kind of talking about him right now, that a haircut won't help. I met Mason Crosby twice, and that dude's got the largest head I've ever seen. His head is like this long, and that's coming from Pumpkinhead here. Like my wife used to say that my baby pictures when we were dating in high school, she said I looked like a tadpole, right? So if I'm saying somebody's head's big, their head's big. But anyway, you're looking clean over there, brother. What do you think, man? Mason Crosby, Christian Watson, what are you expecting? What are you hoping for?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'd hope for them both to get on the field as soon as possible. I kind of think that with how cautious the Packers medical staff is, they probably won't play this upcoming game, but I'm hopeful that, for the last 2 games of the preseason, they'll be able to make an appearance.
Yeah, that would be great. And when we were talking to Krista the other day, the vibe I got was like, she was just like, it's not a big deal. Like,
Yeah.
some people were making like it's not a big deal. Like, and when she told us it was the floating cartilage, and then I don't know if you guys seen the retweet. We had a doctor retweet us from Florida who kind of does some fantasy football stuff on the side, and he had kind of name dropped us and Packernet Podcast as having that source, but he said, he kind of explained there's 2 different scenarios in that case with Christian Watson's injury, one being kind of surface and the other being somewhat serious. And he seemed to think that if it was the more serious of the 2, then obviously he would probably be out for the year the way he talked. But the fact that he's not out for the year says it's the other one. And he said he seemed a little more hesitant, but it does seem like doctors are usually, they're not going to try to rush something back or put their name out there on something that might be inaccurate from a dangerous standpoint. And he seemed to think, it might be maybe the 2nd or 3rd week, the vibe I got. But hopefully we get him back. But what's cool is we took multiple swings in the draft, right? And Dobbs is flashing. Samori Toure looked good at family night. We've got some options there. So and Sammy Watkins too. Did you guys see that one-handed catch in practice the other day? Did y'all catch that?
I'm not sure if I saw that one or not.
I think you would have seen, you would have remembered it, but it was kind of a back shoulder throw behind Sammy Watkins, and dude, he snatched that thing like OBJ one-handed. I think we forget how much talent he had. He just couldn't stay on the field and couldn't create that continuity. So I'm kind of excited about seeing what he does too. All right, let's move on to the other topic here. Ryan, I shared this. It came in from Andy Herman as well. It said Rico Gafford and Shamar Jean-Charles, the outside rushers on a field goal block team. Love seeing Gafford's insane speed there. If anyone could block a kick off the edge, it could be him. And, we've heard about Gafford. Obviously, he's been converted from offense to defense. And I think that when you have a player with that kind of versatility, it's obvious they've got to be a smart player. And I kind of mentioned that on the pod earlier with Jacob that should be dropping any time now. And, when you've got somebody who can play both sides of the ball, it tells you they've got to have a high football IQ. I mean, that's usually what keeps a corner from playing wide receiver. That along with maybe bricks for hands, right? But as far as that goes, man, if I understood correctly, you guys confirmed this for me. Did I hear that Keyshawn Nixon was back at practice now? Is that right?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
So those are the two guys for me that are battling for that final spot there at corner, unless they choose to carry an extra one. I'm leaning towards Gafford for everything I just said, but I think we also, at least I know I've forgotten that was kind of Bisaccia's pick was Nixon, wasn't it? He
Yep.
kind of wanted that guy for special teams. I think he had a history with him in Vegas. But Ryan, what do you think, man? How does this sound between Gafford and Nixon now that Nixon's starting to get on the practice field?
Yeah, so there's a couple of guys that I think they got a shot, but they got to put in the work. Malik Taylor just came back also. He's a guy that the Packers really like, but he's been gone, and it was kind of him and Juwann Winfrey in my mind were the same guy, but Winfrey just sailed past him because he's having a great camp and everything else. And, now that he's back, he's still got an opportunity with preseason and everything else. And that's kind of where I'm at with Nixon as well. I mean, there's so many guys that have already put in a lot of work on special teams. They've already kind of established themselves. Rico especially. I mean, he's using him off the edge to try to block kicks. I mean, he runs like a 4.2 240 or something. So obviously they're enamored with that. They want to see what he can do. He's also one of the top kick returners right now that they're using to kind of see what he can do. And I also think he's kind of established himself as sort of that next up at corner. It was I'm thinking Shamar, but now that they're kind of kicking him into the slot, I'm thinking Rico might be next man up on the boundary. So I mean, he is, as far as I'm concerned, he's a lock at this point until he does something awful, because the way that they're using him on special teams and his contributions at corner, I think he's pretty well locked it up. It's just a matter of what are we going to get from him? I mean, obviously the speed is exciting, but the ceiling is there. It's just a matter of what we can fully get from him. But I'm excited. I'm excited to kind of see what we're going to get. But as far as him in a competition, he's all right. He'll be all right.
Yeah, it's funny, man, because I tend to look at the roster globally and not specific to certain positions like slot corner, like slot receiver. I always fall victim of that. It seems like every day I have to remind myself, but you always bring me back to center, and you mentioned those things like you were talking about the other night or the other day when we were talking about tight ends and how certain tight ends play certain roles, and that's really going to play a role into whether or not they make the roster. That stuff's so important. But what do you think there, Sam? I know you're our defensive film guru. I know you're seeing these updates, especially with special teams too, and you got to be excited about talking about stuff like this.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I feel pretty good about Rico's spot on the roster. Like you're kind of talking about, brings a lot of special teams. I think they were using him as a returner at times over the past couple of weeks, as well as punt gunner, using that speed on kick blocks and that sort of thing. And one thing it's actually I think we should note is Keyshawn Nixon's not the only guy who has history with Bisaccia. Rico Gafford was actually on the Raiders practice squad from 2018
See,
to
I did
2020,
not know that.
and that was overlapped with Bisaccia as well. So it's not like Keyshawn Nixon has kind of like that advantage. They've both kind of been under Bisaccia. So yeah, I think that from what it sounds like, just based on the camp updates, Rico Gafford kind of has the upper hand over Nixon and some of those other guys. Just simply being on the field, right? Keyshawn Nixon has kind of been injured, and that can kind of put a player back, especially someone who's coming in their first year in the system.
Yeah, absolutely. And now that you mentioned that, I had no idea Gafford had that history. That's what I love about this crew, man. I'm learning stuff every single day, and I would be completely in the dark if I wasn't doing a podcast and following what you guys covered. But that's good stuff. Now, with that being said, there's probably a chance that we carry 6 corners, right? I mean, last year we averaged 5.9 on the active roster, so I mean, you might as well call it 6. It's a good chance to keep both of them. I see if I didn't know that about Gafford, and didn't even think about that. That's good stuff. On the pod today, I covered. I went back and watched Bussin' with the Boys and listened to the Robert Tonyan part. And we'll wrap up with this. We'll get everybody out of here. I just wanted to be a quick stream. Unless you guys have something you want to add, I'm totally great with that. But Bob Tonyan was talking about the ACL being a clean break of the ACL. and everything went great. He said he's going to come back stronger than ever. And, you know, some people say that and it's like, okay, yeah, that's the cliche, blah, blah, blah. But it really felt like it was genuine when I heard him say that. And then something that Will Compton, you know, the host of Bussin' with the Boys, kind of mentioned that caught me a little bit, you know, not really by surprise, but I just didn't think about it. He's like, yeah, on top of that, your body had a ton of time to rest and heal, not just the ACL. And so many times, especially in the sports media, they immediately turn and look to, well, he hasn't played football in however many months, but they never really take into consideration of that. If as long as they've been working out and staying in
Right.
football shape, they are well rested. So I'm pretty excited about Bob Tunyon. What do you think, Ryan? I know you. I always want to call you Pack Daddy when I look at your name. Kind of creepy if I call you Pack Daddy. I'm sorry.
It is.
Um, but with Bob Tunyon, man, do you think is there a chance he comes back for week 1? Do you think he could pull that off, or what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know what his timeline is. My assumption was no, but I guess I don't really know. I know Matt LaFleur had mentioned today that he's not going to see any time in the preseason, and I'm assuming with that kind of definitive, like, ain't going to happen, he probably won't make it for. Oh, Jacob's in the house. He probably won't make it for week 1 also. In terms of his contribution, though, and I've mentioned it before, I talked about Lazard and the possibility that he ends up kind of tearing it up now that there's this void there. But I think Tunyon would probably be should be in the conversation as a guy that could possibly have a breakout. I'm not going to say that definitively. I don't want to overhype Robert Tunyon, but just when you look at his ability, I think yesterday or whatever on the podcast I was going through, or this morning, I guess, his physical breakdown, and you look at the guys who are 6'5" and run as fast as he did in this draft class, there were zero. Nobody was able to do what he can do. And I think the only guy that runs as fast as he does was like 6'3". So, I mean, he's got the physical makeup to be a good receiver, to be a good tight end. He's got the trust of the quarterback. He's got incredible hands. So everything is there. And now the biggest thing is Devontae is gone. And I think Devontae was kind of pulling potential away from some of these other guys. Whereas, he may have been winning routes. He may have been doing the right things. But if the ball's going to Devontae, it doesn't matter. And your yards aren't going to be a good representation of what you did on the field. So, I think Lazard I've got circled more than anybody in terms of a guy that can probably grow the most. But Tunyon should absolutely be in that conversation as a guy that could completely blow up, 700-800 yards and double-digit touchdown kind of thing. I mean, who knows? But I think he could be that guy for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, with regards to like the week 1 recovery, the ACL timeline for athletes, from what I understand, is usually 8 to 12 months. I think it's about 9 months or 9 or 10 months from when he injured his ACL to now. So that I think that week 1
Really?
return is well within the realm of possibility, if I'm remembering the date he got injured right. And I agree with Ryan. I think that he could really benefit from Devontae's absence. A couple areas I'm really curious to see how he kind of fits into the offense. The red zone, right? Devontae was getting a lot of attention there.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of on play action, right? Especially if the Packers want to go to a more like downhill running game where they're getting more counter, more 49ers, like heavy personnel, 21 personnel, that kind of stuff. They can get more heavy downhill running game that can open up more space behind the linebackers for Tunyon to kind of eat in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jacob, I know you joined us late here, pal, but we're just covering our favorite quiche recipes. So what do you got, man? What do you like to stuff in your quiches up there in Wisconsin?
Careful.
Yeah, never mind. We're not going there. Well, we were just talking about Bob Tunyon. Gotcha. You're cutting out a little bit. Hopefully it'll clean up
Robert
here. But we were
Tunyon?
just talking about, Robert Tunyon.
Well, I mean, I'm hopeful that he, like I said, when we talk to each other, he's looking like he can put pads on right now. So, and he's got that sweet hairstyle, the long hair, Bobby Tunyon, bob bun, So, and like I said, I mean, honestly, like people sleep on him because he used to be, he was rising. He was training with, Joe Kittle in the offseason. People were like, what could Bob Tunyon be? He has sure hands, very sure hands, So I'd like him to get back up to speed. And our tight end room, if people are hyping up Tyler Davis, very much. I feel like that would really go if Bobby is healthy.
Yeah,
We'll see.
absolutely. Yeah, we caught the majority of that. You were breaking up just a touch, but yeah, the thing that Jacob pointed out too on the pod was
You want me to leave and come back in?
his catch. You could try to, yeah, if you'd like. You could. We were talking about his catch rate, right? That the guy just never. I mean, I think what he had one drop, was that what it was, or no drops that last full season?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty remarkable, dude. It's
Right.
one thing to talk about stats and compiling stats and all that stuff, but when you have someone who has little to none as far as in the drop category, I mean, I don't think you could put a price tag on that. It's because we know how Rodgers likes to throw into tight windows, which is amazes me that people say he's so careful with the ball that he won't take chances. So many times I've seen that ball whistle by the Mike linebacker's ear. You know what I mean? It's like, what are you talking about? So, yeah, I'm excited to see if Bob Tunyon's healthy this year and when he does get back. And that does sound right. The reason I was saying really, Sam, and kind of questioning that, I wasn't questioning the timeline. I was trying to think, when did he actually get hurt? And if he's coming up on 9 months, that's.
Yeah, I
right
think
there.
it was October. It was the game against. I know it was the game against the Cardinals, but I think that was in October.
Yeah. That Cardinals game, man, when I go back to it, Ryan, dude, it's like we shouldn't have won that game. Think about it. I mean, we were out, Devontae, right?
Yeah.
Am I thinking right? We were down Tunyon there at a certain point. There was somebody else. Lazard was out, right?
Yeah, and MVS, I think.
Yeah. Rodgers was out there throwing to the custodians, and we still came away with a road win. I mean, come on, dude. That's awesome. So, well, I mean, is there anything else you guys want to cover? I hate to sign off as soon as Jacob jumps on with us, but Jacob, we were just looking to go 15 or 20 minutes, just throw something together. Wanted to test the system.
Jacob's here. Let's get out of here, guys. This is
Yeah,
ridiculous.
he is. Stuffing that Mary Jane in the quiches up there in Wisconsin. But anyway, is there anything else you guys want to cover? Ryan, Sam, Jacob, anybody got anything?
Not off the top of my head, I don't.
All right, awesome. Sam, you good?
The one thing I wanted to mention that has kind of intrigued me a little bit, just last night with Darnell Savage going down with that injury, and then today with him being absent again, it's really interesting that Vernon Scott is the next guy up at that free safety position.
Yep.
Like, because it kind of came out of nowhere, right? The last we heard, it was Sean Davis for the third safety, and then Vernon Scott's in there. I find that really interesting because I've always been intrigued by Scott just because he, coming from TCU, he's played in a system that is kind of quarters heavy before, and I don't know why it took so long for him to get playing time in the system, but it seems like he's taking advantage of that time now and seems to be on an upward track maybe towards that to take that third safety spot.
Yeah. That's
yeah,
awesome.
he's got a lot of competition too with a lot of special teamers with Davis and Levitt and all that stuff. So he's got an uphill battle because I don't think he's much of a special teams guy right now. But I also think now that you mentioned that, the other thing that kind of blew me away was Tipa. Tipa's been basically locked in as the number 3 pass rusher all through training camp, which freaked me out to begin with because I'm like, where the heck did this come from? All of a sudden he's like the number 3, him and Hamilton, and then family night comes around, he doesn't get a single rep with the starters, with the second team. Apparently he's buried on the third team somewhere. Like, what the heck is going on? Everybody else, including some guy I've hardly ever heard of, is taking reps, and Tipa's just gone. He's third team pass rusher. So I'm actually really interested for tomorrow because I don't want to jump to conclusions on one day. It could have been a variety of reasons, but I'm curious tomorrow, is it back to Tipa and Hamilton, or is it Hamilton and Garvin and Tipa's just not there anymore and something came up or whatever? But that's kind of a big thing for me to figure out because I just assumed he was having a great camp and we were going to see special things from him, and he vanished. So I'm curious to see what happens tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask Sam a question?
Yeah.
So, Sam, I know that everybody's real hyped on the defense and all that. So I it's weird formula where I factor as having 7 wide receivers. For that to happen, 5 D linemen or whatever you want to call it, and only 6, or I should say, outside line, inside linebackers, and I kept 5 D linemen. So if that were to work out, where do you see if they keep 5? Do you think that they have on, or how do you think that works? And I know that people are interested because we've seen that weird front where they have a lot of defensive linemen, that 4-man front kind of thing. Where do you see that falling if we pick 7 wide receivers, which I know is a very big stretching?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, did you say that you kept the 6 outside linebackers?
Yes. And Ramsey's not one
Okay.
of them.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. Because I mean, I am curious about that because I think they've only kept 5 the last couple of years, and so they may keep an
Yeah,
extra defensive lineman over like a 6th outside linebacker. But to answer your question, I mean, I think the locks that we've got right: Kenny, Jaron Reed, T.J. Slayton, Dean Lowry, and then Devontae Wyatt,
Wyatt.
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one because I think
Wyatt.
that from what it sounds like, both Heflin and Jonathan Ford have kind of done some interesting stuff in camp. But yeah, I think that those first 5 are the locks to make the roster. I think you can throw in, Heflin, Ford, one of those other guys in there at the end.
Good stuff. I know this. When you kind of look at it, the thing that's standing out to me too on my board, I've got the injuries, the pup guys, the guys, that aren't currently practicing. I've got them written in red. There's no red across the defensive board. From the best of my knowledge, everybody's healthy. Am I right on that? Because
Yeah,
Nixon came back today, right?
Nixon came
Ramsey
back.
too.
Yeah.
I mean,
missing-
Savage is
Ramsey's back.
Well, Savage, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Savage. There you go.
So yeah, compared to the offensive side, you look at the offensive side, it looks like a rainbow over here, man. I'm like, oh my god. But yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm excited, man. The season's almost here, dude. It's gonna get good. So again, we're gonna look to do this stuff more often, guys. Whether it's Ryan doing just a random stream, Sam, if you ever do it and you want somebody to jump in, let us know. Jacob's always with me too, man. So I really enjoyed it. We just want to give you guys kind of a quick camp update, from practice today, and it was real encouraging. Like Ryan, when he shared that about Christian Watson and Mason Crosby, I thought, man, I'm kind of excited. Let's jump on a stream and just talk about it. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Obviously, Ryan for Packernet Podcast, Jacob for Packernet Podcast, Sam Holman, Wisconsin Sports Heroics Podcast. This is Clayton for Packers Total Access signing off. Appreciate you guys.